There's a wonderful word that crops up particularly in the King James Bible quite frequently. We find it in the Old Testament from the Pentateuch, Psalms, the Prophets, for example, and we find it occasionally in the New Testament too. It's a compound word, stiff-necked. In the book of Acts, for instance, Stephen uses it when he's speaking to the Sanhedrin, stiff-necked. And it makes me think of Milton's description of Satan and the characteristics that he gives to Satan of being obdurate, proud, unwilling to change his mind, stiff-necked. And it's also an interesting concept when we think about prejudice. Are we too stiff-necked to be able to turn, to have the flexibility to think about things differently? Or are we like Satan? Have we made up our minds about everything and our minds are completely to be unchanged? So we're thinking about this because this introduces to us how close the sin of pride can be to the sin of prejudice. I'm not suggesting that we should all think the same, absolutely not. We should expect as well as respect that there are differences of opinion among us. But I often think now that some of the challenges facing the church are very similar in many ways to the challenges that the church faced in the middle of the 19th century when it had to deal with new scientific ideas, particularly the theory of evolution. Now, not everyone even today is convinced about the theory of evolution. Different people have different ideas, but certainly it was something that the non-subscribers were thinking about and discussing and disagreeing over in the middle of the 19th century. I'm not at all suggesting that anyone should accept my arguments or my opinions or even be convinced by the arguments that persuade me. What I'm asking, simply, is that people are open to hearing new ideas, open to listening, open to thinking and challenging, open to being rational, which is what's expected of us as non-subscribers in our approach. We shouldn't change our minds if we're not convinced about things. We might feel frightened if the world is changing, that it's changing in ways that are opposed to Scripture, and we should hold to the old ways. Or it may be that new knowledge is presenting us with new ways of seeing the world, new ways of seeing our faith, new ways of relating to one another, new ways of having the flexibility to avoid that uncomfortable stiff-necked feeling.